Hello and welcome to the Preacher Plays review of Pixel Ripped 1989. Pixel Ripped is currently priced at $24.99 on the US store and is unavailable at the moment on the UK store. Pixel Ripped aims to take you back to 1989 into a realm of nostalgia. But is it worth the hype? Let's find out. First up is the story. Pixel Ripped is set in two worlds, the real world and inside the game world. In the real world you play as Nicola, a badass Pixel Ripped player, and in the game world you play as Dot, who is the main hero of Pixel Ripped. The goal for Nicola is to be able to play the game without getting caught by the teacher, and the goal of Dot is to try and destroy the Cyblin Goblin Lord before he takes over both the real world and the game world. The graphics are a little bit hit and miss. Everything when you're inside of the game world or when you're playing on the game looks exactly like it should do. You know, that old retro Game Boy, Game Gear, Super Nintendo look that you experience throughout the game is absolutely nailed and it looks awesome. The trouble comes in when you're in the real world. A lot of it looks really good, but some of it also looks a little bit janky, some of the animations aren't great and some of the NPC character models aren't amazing either. But it is an indie title, and I appreciate that not all indie titles have the budget to be able to pull everything off. There are some fantastic lighting effects, and there's some awesome particle effects as well in the game, which elevate it to a very high-end indie title status. As far as the aesthetic goes, it absolutely nails the 1980s, and there's a lot of things in and around the environment that completely remind you of being a kid in the 80s. So if you grew up then, you're in for a nostalgia trip. The duality of the story can also be felt in the gameplay. As Nicola, you have to avoid the teacher from seeing you playing the game Pixel Ripped, because Nicola is essentially helping Dot throughout the game. And what she has to do is you often have to fire a spitball to distract the teacher, which can often lead to some really comical and strange results. Though the variety of the gameplay does mix itself up throughout the game and keeps things fresh, so you never really get too bored. But the majority of the game is you playing Pixel Ripped as Nicola and trying to avoid being caught doing so. Most of the levels as well end in a boss, so every level, there's like 4 levels in the game, and each level you have to play through the main part of Pixel Ripped and it ends with a boss.
Go outside and play now!
You are the Pixel Stone hero. Can you defeat the evil Cyblin Lord? Pixel Ripped 1989, coming this spring.
As you can probably tell from this clip, the audio is absolutely spot on to the 1980s. The game has an absolutely great soundtrack, and all the sound effects in the games are exactly how you'd imagine. Chiptune, 8-bit, it all sounds absolutely perfect. This is one of the highlights of the game. The controls are pretty much as you'd expect of an old game, you know, simple NES controls, which is the 4-directional D-pad and A and B buttons, or in our case, X and square. And that's basically it. You use square to fire your bullets and to dash, and X to jump. Simple as that. The only other control that you have is the ability to fire spitballs, and that just requires you looking with the headset at the spitball thrower, and then once you pick it up, you aim where you want it to go with your head, and then it fires the spitball automatically. And that's it. In summary, Pixel Ripped is an excellent indie title. It's at the very high end of indie titles, but it is an indie title. A lot of people are hyping this game up to something that it isn't, and that could end up making you dislike the game, when in fact it is a very, very good game, but it is an indie title. And what I mean by that is whilst it is excellent, it lacks in some areas. The budget just isn't there in some areas. The game only lasts, say, about 2 to 3 hours, something like that, to complete. And whilst it's a lot of fun, there's not much reason to go back to it once you've completed it, other than just to relive that nostalgia trip. I do also worry that anybody under a certain age won't necessarily get all of the references, all of the Easter eggs, or even appreciate the nostalgia and the effort it's gone to recreate the 1980s, because they've done a really good job, and you will enjoy this game, but your mileage will vary depending on how much you get a kick out of nostalgia and old school gaming. All in all though, I can recommend it for my playthrough. I really did enjoy it. There is a hard, fast difficulty spike at the very end of the game for the last boss, but other than that, the game's the difficulty is quite decent. Overall, I enjoyed the game.
What is this nonsense? The tags are coming in and they are terrifying.